I found his dad!
I think Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Your dad, he's a fun guy, right?
Daddy's gone mad, hasn't he?
And I love him so much, and I think he's the greatest dad in the world.
Welcome back to the Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex. With me, as always, is Ethan. Actually, well, that's not Ethan. That is a photo of Ethan. Ethan's on vacation this week, so I'm going solo. But unlike Ethan, I'm not going to sit here and have a bunch of tech issues, knock on wood. And I'm also not going to just sit here and talk about hand, foot, and mouth disease, because that's boring. Today, what I wanted to do, going to share a little bit of a story time with you. And then I wanted to talk about something that Ethan has never had the pleasure of experiencing, and that is buying a car. Something I've been through a couple of times, and I know a little bit of Ethan's car history, not all of it, but I know it's not really something that the two of us would talk about, but I do think for dads out there and the moms that it can be a valuable conversation topic to really share my experiences. Some of the things that I've learned that maybe you could apply to yourself, as with both things. But let's get started with story time. So one of the episodes, I want to say last season, and I don't remember which one, apologies that I didn't bookmark it, but I mentioned an idea that I had seen on social media. I saw this idea pop up again. I remembered to write down the creator's name. It's The Dad Chats. I've seen him on TikTok, and I've seen him on Instagram a lot. It's got pretty funny, humorous dad stories most of the time, but he had one hack in there about getting kids to eat dinner, which was getting their favorite character to like pop up on smart home device. So what I mean is, let's say Bluey's their favorite character, right? And you would say, what is Bluey having for dinner? And you have programmed your smart home device, whether it's Alexa, Google Home, you name it, to then respond with whatever you were planning on cooking. That way, when you make exactly or order or whatever you do, get the food that you were already planning on getting, the kids think that's what Bluey's having for dinner. This is going to be awesome. It's a great way to get their buy-in, to get them excited, and to eliminate fights. If you've been listening to this podcast, frankly, ever, you understand that this has been a big pain point for Ethan and I. It's been something we've talked about on two separate full episodes and takes up quite a bit of our story times, but I'm just going to tell you right now, this may be a great tactic for you to try. It was not for me. So I offered this to my son. Sunday night, set the scene, threw a tantrum, didn't want dinner, didn't want to eat any of it. My wife made a bargain with him that I probably would not have made, where she said, listen, man, you don't want to eat dinner, fine. You can get a pass tonight, but in exchange, you have to eat all the other dinners for the week. This is a 3.5-year-old we're talking about. There was very little chance that I thought this was going to work, but it reminded me of this idea. And I said, okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you keep your end of the bargain. Who is your favorite television character? He said Mario. I didn't want to get into it with a 3.5-year-old that he's more of a video game movie guy. I know there have been some Mario TV shows, none he's ever watched, but that's a little bit minutia. I said, okay, Mario, what if for the rest of the week, we eat what Mario's eating? You can ask your Alexa, hey, what's Mario having for dinner? Alexa will tell you, and then I'll make that. Does that sound good? And then you eat it. Yeah, deal, Dad. Great, done. Night one. We are having, I don't even remember honestly at this point, because let's just say it didn't go as planned. I made the first night and everything actually went okay. He liked the dinner. He didn't complain about the dinner. He ate the dinner. My daughter did fine too. Night two comes. All right. We're having orange chicken. Like I'm talking not some creation, high protein, weight loss version of orange chicken. I didn't order it. We're not talking Panda Express, but I did get the freezer box, right? Innovation brand from Publix, just frozen orange chicken, Panda Express style, rice. Yeah, I threw some green beans in there because I'm a good dad that cares about my kids eating their veggies. They could pick them out. It's fine. but I figured, hey, they're covered in the orange sauce. Maybe they'll like it. He revolted. He didn't want to eat it. He didn't want to touch it. We're talking 3 of those pieces of chicken. I was like, eat one, try one. No, no deal. Didn't want to do it whatsoever. And so I reminded him, hey, this is what Mario's having for dinner. Right? I'd even programmed the Alexa to get a little spicy with it. Mario's having orange chicken and rice. Mamma mia. Yeah, he still wasn't having it. He didn't care. He didn't want it. And he realized he lost the bargain. So my daughter pipes up and says, well, can I choose a character for the rest of the week? I want a different character. I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll see if this works with you. We weren't having a bunch of problems with her. She's mostly grown out of the just like sitting down at the table and flat out refusing to eat, no matter whether she's tasted it or not. And I was like, great. Do it with you. What character do you want? And she goes, Princess Peach. Very original. I'm sure it's going to be a drastically different menu than Mario. Totally separate characters that have no connection whatsoever. Great. Princess Peach. You got it. Once again, Princess Peach going to be having what I cook. Now, first night of Princess Peach, I am making, yes, it was a high protein pizza mac and cheese. We're talking pepperoni, tomato sauce, spices, ground beef, pasta, and like a blended cheese sauce. It had cottage cheese, but it had mozzarella, cheddar, Parmesan, all in there. It was delicious. Okay. Basically had the texture consistency of like pizza flavored beef stroganoff. Maybe that sounds gross to you, but my kids love pizza. My kids love mac and cheese. Ethan over here loves pizza. Everybody's excited about it. Except she didn't like it. Now, she was much more understanding than my son. My son didn't want to touch it. Fine, not your character. I'm not having this fight with you. But she was like, I tried it. I tried all the pieces. I didn't like it. And I was like, okay, I understand. Can you just eat a little bit more? I'll get you something else. It's fine. We'll work through it, but we're not going to do the character. And she goes, but I want to keep doing the characters. And I'm like, listen, I hid from them the fact that these menus are exactly what I chose to make. I think my daughter kind of figured it out, but I still said, hey, I have to like work with the Alexa to set this up, right? I have to get it to feed in these character menus, and it's a little bit of work for me. If I'm having to do that work, and I'm also having to do the work of having the battles at dinner to get you guys to eat it, and I'm having to do the work to get up from dinner and get you something else so you actually have food on your belly, this is not the solution for me. She gave me a little bit of trouble about that, and I just said, listen, I'm not going to be doing that. That's not going to happen anymore. So once again, if this is something, try it, right? It's not that hard. You can Google how to program automated responses from Alexa, Google Home. I've done this before, right? Many times for mostly pranking my kids reasons, but and when my daughter wants to play annoying songs, I will program Alexa when she requests it to say, I'm sorry, that song has been banned on account of it's annoying. And she immediately goes, Dad. She knows it's me. But alas, you can program these smart home devices to give you specific responses to specific inputs, be whatever you want. It can be text-based, and you can do it from your phone. Try it out. Drop in the comments if it's worked for you or if you have some other tips. I'd love to hear it. Plain and simple, it didn't work for me. Now, to move on to tonight's topic. Tonight, we are talking about buying a car. This is something that I am actually in the process of doing, and this will be my 3rd time in my life dealing with a dealership. Ethan and I know enough about Ethan's high school years, even though we met in college. Fortunate enough to have parents that could afford to, get us a car. Not everybody's in that position. Very grateful to be in that position, right? My first car was a BMW that was 5 years older than I was. Fast car, fun car. Got my first and only speeding ticket in that car. My dad threatened to take my keys away. But I learned my lesson. After that, the clutch went out, and not the loftiest of car repairs, but still enough that it cost more to repair the clutch than it did for the whole car. So we kind of considered it totaled. After that, I had back-to-back blue Jettas, including the one that I drove for most of my senior year of high school, as well as all of college. Fun car, like the Jetta, very reliable, had a lot of good memories in that car. I will say, pro tip, if you are one of those people like my dad who is very into teaching your kids stick shift, I think it's a valuable lesson. Hasn't always served me well. Okay. In college, you don't get to do the like, well, I'll drive there, but somebody else drives back kind of thing. Like, I'll drive everybody there in my car, but then I don't want to be the designated driver to get us home. Doesn't work when none of your roommates know how to drive a stick, right? So that didn't work. And then we've had a couple of occasions where my wife has rented a car when we're in a foreign country on vacation, and lo and behold, it's a stick shift. So that's been a super fun experience to be the only one that can drive. I did pay her back, and she drove throughout our entire Scotland adventure. That was an automatic vehicle. Alas, after that, I got rid of the stick shift in favor of my grandmother's Buick LeSabre when I moved to New York City. I did not want a manual transmission going through the streets of New York. Not sure that it mattered that much in the end of things, but I enjoyed having it. Now, fast forward a few years, and once again, I am in a pretty lucky position. My dad has a habit of just sort of growing out of cars, for lack of a more comprehensive term. And so he was looking to upgrade from his Honda Fit Sport. And so he was willing to trade me that for the Buick LeSabre, so he could trade in the Buick LeSabre for what he was planning on getting. I don't remember exactly what he got with that purchase, but enjoyed that Honda Fit Sport. It was more modern, a little bit zoomier than a Buick LeSabre, low bar, I know, but didn't have that car long because unfortunately I was in a car accident, not of my own fault. I was stopped at a red light in broad daylight at about 11 a.m. on a Sunday, and I got rear-ended by a drunk driver going full speed in like a 50-mile-an-hour zone in New Jersey. Luckily, that car was not bigger than a Honda Fit, so while the car was completely totaled, they hit me on the rear passenger side, spun me around into the intersection, no further damage. I had a stiff neck the next day, walked away from everything. Unfortunately, that car was gone. We needed something, so my wife and I got a new Honda Fit. That was my first experience at a dealership. We got a brand new off-the-line Honda Fit, not the sport model, very basic. We were living in New York City. We didn't need anything crazy, and the Fit was great because all the seats folded all which ways. We could fit stuff any which way, but it was also amazing for parallel parking, which we needed to do because we didn't have any sort of designated space. We just had to do the alternate side parking for those of you that are familiar with New York City terminology. That is the car that I am still driving today. We bought that car 2 months after we got married, and it has lasted this long. I don't drive it very often because I work right from this desk every day. My kids go to school within biking distance one direction and less than a mile away for daycare the other direction. In between daycare and here is the Y, as you've heard me talk about many times. Grocery stores are close by. I don't do a lot of driving. Ethan doesn't do a lot of driving. Ethan's driving. I know he's driving a Toyota Camry, the same one he was driving when we were in college that he got from his grandmother. That's how I know he doesn't have any experience with buying new cars or anything like that. That's totally fine. And just for the record, it may be his aunt that gave it. I can't really remember, but I do know he got it from a family member. He's had it ever since. Similar use case. He lives in a metropolitan area. He has access to fantastic public transportation. He only needs it for those few times that he actually needs a car. So my Honda Fit's sitting here right now with it's about 11 years old now. No, 12 years old. And it has 65,000 miles on it. 66, just about. So it is not exactly full of age, especially for a vehicle like a Honda, but most vehicles you should assume you can at least get 66,000 miles. But there are other things that are going wrong with it because there are just certain things that I live in Florida. I live in the heat. Just going wrong with it that run out after a time. And one of the biggest things is the air conditioning. And that has made that car fairly untenable. It blows air, but it is not particularly cold air. So a lot of times, if it's not raining, I am blasting the AC to blow out the hot air with all the windows down, rolling around in style. When it rains, it usually does get cool enough to be tolerable in the car with the windows up and the air blowing on you. There's some other things that have sort of gone out with age, but nothing that keeps it from getting me to point A to point B. So we use my wife's RAV4 for most of our driving, and then the Honda Fit on the rare occasions that we both have to go somewhere. So I am finally upgrading that car, which is a little bit of a bittersweet moment for me because, like I said, it's been with my wife and I since marriage. You know, in there at one point before the RAV4, our second car was another gift from my dad, which was a Ford F-150, and it looked like a city county work truck. Plain white, bench seat, huge bed, no back seats. As you can imagine, we got rid of that car in early 2019, a few months after my daughter was born, just because it wasn't practical to be putting a car seat in the front seat. While we weren't dead sure how long it would remain not setting off the front airbag, and I didn't really feel comfortable unplugging the front airbag in case someone else was sitting in the front seat on any given occasion. So it just didn't make sense. While we loved the car when we first moved into the house, it could haul anything and everything. It just didn't work out, and so that's why we got the RAV4. You've probably heard me mention a few times on this show that I've been in sort of the market for car shopping, but recently decided to bite the bullet and get after something. And all this backstory really leads me to my first point that I've been fortunate enough with this purchase and with the purchase of the RAV4 with dealerships to not be in a position of dire need, right? We could get by with what we had. When we had the truck and we had the Honda Fit, we could get by with switching drivers in parking lots between me and my wife, depending on who needed the kid. We could get by. It stunk. Wasn't very much fun, but we could get by. And so when I went into that dealership to buy the car, negotiate, do all those things, it was doing a position like we'd want this car, but we don't need this car. That's a strong thing. It's not everybody's going to have that, right? I don't take it for granted that we were in that position. But when we first got the Honda Fit, we were in a position of need. Yes, we lived in New York City. We could use public transportation to get from place to place for the most part. But we really wanted to have our own car anytime we wanted to exit the city for any sort of meaningful experience. Hear me talk about taking vacations to Massachusetts. Massachusetts was a long afternoon's drive away from New York City. And so we would go up there to visit my in-laws for the weekends, go down to North Carolina to visit my parents, things like that. Really helpful to have a car. So we were in a little more position of need then, but we frankly didn't have to negotiate a lot because we were buying a bare bones car, bare bones price, bare bones everything. There's the most basic model that the Honda dealership could provide. So there just wasn't a ton of wiggle room. With the RAV4, it was used, it's a formal rental car. And we went in there and I was able to use my position of not needing it, I think, to my advantage. Similarly here, do I like having a car with no air conditioning? No, it's brutal sometimes. But can I get by with it? Yes. Could I get by with it for 5-10 more years if I needed to? Absolutely. Probably. Maybe not absolutely, but probably. But it's just not fun. It's not fun having to put up a window shade to hope that it keeps the car 5 degrees cooler. It's not fun scouring the parking lot, trying to find one place that might have a shady tree overhanging it so that it doesn't get so much sun radiation right in it. All right. But at the end of the day, I don't need the car right this second. You know, I don't have a long commute at all. The bedroom's a few dozen feet that way. It's not a big deal. And so if you can find yourself in a position, let's say you've got a car and you're looking at getting a new car, and I am usually a big advocate of getting as much out of a car as you can, right? Environmental reasons. Producing a new car usually creates a lot of greenhouse gases. Everybody talks about fuel efficiency and this, that, and the other. But if you're buying a new car every year, putting more cars on the road, putting more cars in the lots, that's doing a lot to up greenhouse gases. Aside from all of that, I just think like you want to get your money's worth out of a vehicle. So if you find your car starting to break down, it's needing heftier and heftier repairs, and you have to do more of those every 6 months. Every time you get an oil change, there's always something else popping up. That might be a red flag for you to start looking at cars while you still have a little bit of runway left, right? Obviously, that's going to take some, financial saving and having the ability to get a down payment in there so you can get financing, something like that. And again, not something you should take for granted, but if you have the opportunity to buy a car from a position of strength, I highly, highly recommend it. It'll come in handy later in the process. The second thing I highly recommend is doing your research online. All right. There are tons of, I used a lot of car and driver reviews, right? I used a lot of Reddit forums about real user experiences with certain vehicles. Now, I kind of knew going into my current shopping experience that I wanted something bigger, not necessarily an ego play, but I wanted something with a third row. Our parents are getting a little bit older. It's frustrating that even in the RAV4 with the car seats in there, we can't fit someone in the middle seat, at least not very easily without them squishing and being uncomfortable, right? It means that we always have to park our car when we're driving to the airport. Nobody can drive it and drive us back or something like that. We just don't have a vehicle that will cut that for us. My father-in-law has a 3-row SUV, and when we want to go somewhere in his car, we can load up my mother-in-law, me, my wife, both our kids, and we can all go and we can all have a pretty comfortable ride. And I said, you know what? That seems like a great idea. But I don't want to just get a gas guzzler. I had that with the pickup truck. It was pretty annoying to average 19, 18 miles a gallon. So I wanted something. So I said, I either want to get an electric third row vehicle or at the very least get a hybrid. So I looked at a few third row vehicles. I even threw the electric Chevy Silverado in there just because it's got a wider back seat that I'm like, I know I could get 5 in here. I watched YouTube videos of people comfortably fitting 2 car seats and a human being in that vehicle. I was like, okay, great. So I was down to 4 vehicles. I said, I want either the Kia EV9. I was looking at a Mercedes SUV, which, like, okay, money bags, is actually not that expensive comparatively, but it was more of a 2-row SUV that had thrown a third row in the back. We looked at the Chevy Silverado that I mentioned, and we looked at the Toyota Grand Highlander hybrid. So the first 3, Mercedes EQB 250, the Chevy Silverado EV, and the Kia EV9 were all electric vehicles. And of course, the Grand Highlander hybrid, the hybrid vehicle. Ended up eliminating the Silverado because I just said, man, that third row is really appealing. I think I'm getting some nostalgia from when I had a pickup truck and liking it. I just don't find as much need. I can attach a trailer to any of these other vehicles. For the few times that I actually need to haul something, I could rent a pickup truck, and then my day-to-day would be just a little bit more practical. I could still fold down these third rows. I could still have plenty of trunk space, and I could attach a trailer hitch for the few times that I needed to haul something, but not always have a hauling bed on me that I didn't really need, sacrificing that third row. So I eliminated the Silverado, eliminated the Mercedes because it's pricey as heck to repair. And, again, that third row was kind of crammed in there. So it was down to the EV9, the Grand Highlander hybrid, 1 electric, 1 gas. But the Grand Highlander gets 36 miles per gallon, which is better than my little Honda Fit. So I wasn't feeling too bad about that. And I test drove both. I won't go into too much detail about those experiences, but I didn't vibe with the Kia EV9, plain and simple. Didn't feel like it was the right vehicle for me. Ethan, he looks kind of nervous about it. And so landed on the Grand Highlander hybrid. And once again, this is where the position of negotiating from strength came into play. You have to understand when you walk into a car dealership that it's their job to sell you. And most of them are working there because they're at least good at it, or they've been trained by somebody good at it. They're going to have tactics. They're going to have tricks. They're going to have incentives. They're going to put pressure on you. And so I heard everything when I walked into our local Toyota dealership. I heard everything when I called other Toyota dealerships looking at inventory. And it's, oh, these things go fast. Most of them are sold before they even get to the lot. You got to get in here and do it. And like, we can't guarantee it, and we can't hold it, and we can't do this, that, and the other. And they're really convincing. So this is where the negotiating comes in. If you're in a position of you can wait, then you can say, okay, I'll keep an eye out. I don't need to buy this one, but because it's not meeting all my specs, but I'll keep an eye out on your inventory. I'll send you what I need, and you see if you can find it. Their tone changes pretty quickly once you have that conversation. You say, listen, I'm not walking out of here with a car today. Plain and simple. I want XYZ, and I'm willing to wait. That's the position that you start from. It makes the whole rest of it so much easier. So I end up finding the exact car I want. It's about 45 minutes away from me. Not too bad of a drive. Happy to go down and get it, but it's still in production. So I call up the dealership and I say, hey, I'm interested in this car. And they go, oh, these go fast. Yeah, you'll have to get in. We'll send you the specs and the offer, but you really got to get back to us in the next day or two, because I don't know how long these things last. We only get one or two at a time, and they fly off the shelves. Great. Make that call on a Sunday. The next Saturday, I get a text message from the salesman. 6 days later, goes, hey, Alex, what'd you think of the specs? And I go, I never received your email. And this wasn't a game. I wasn't playing a tactic. He goes, well, is this your email? And they had left out a letter. I said, nope, that's not my email. This is my email. Please send it to me. I'll text you right back to confirm that I got it and all that stuff. And once again, tried to play hardball. And he said, hey, and these things go fast. Like you got an answer, blah, 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 kind of thing. Gave me a call, all that stuff. And I said, hey man, I'm going to be honest with you. You told me this 6 days ago. And for 6 days, I had no knowledge of the specs or the offer on this car. All right. But this is where that doing your homework part comes in, because the spec sheet he had sent me was their suggested retail price. Now, I had found the car on Toyota.com, not even some like third-party aggregation site. And on Toyota.com, the dealer advertised price was $4,000 lower than what his quote was, which was the full suggested retail price. Good on him. Get your money. But I said, hey, I got a better price right here for this vehicle with this VIN number from Toyota.com. Okay. And I also knew that suggested price fell right in line with the Kelley Blue Book price. Find that's a great, that's generally the dealer's standard for what pricing should be. It's good to search vehicles. There are other places you can search vehicles, but I also do highly recommend checking the Kelley Blue Book value, because if you generally offer a dealership within the Kelley Blue Book value for what you're building, they're probably going to be pretty open to that. If you're going in and you're trying to knock $10,000 off the price no matter what, and you're trying to play hardball and you're not willing to be reasonable, you're probably not going to have a lot of success negotiating. But if you've done your homework and you got a good price, you put yourself in a position where you can say, hey, this is my offer. Let's get to this. So they get me that price, and I look through the sheets and I notice some things like a dealer appearance fee. And I say, what is this $1,900, $1,500, $1,900, something like that fee? And they come back and they say, oh, we put coatings on the seats and on the exterior and all this stuff, really shine it up, make it look good for you. And I'm like, this is $1,900 of effort, materials, and time. I don't believe that, but more importantly, I don't want it. I don't care. I don't need it. And the guy goes, I'm sorry, it's just not optional. It's not something we can do. And I said, great. Point number one, position of strength. I don't know what I'm pointing out over here, but point number one, position of strength. I said, okay, understand. Then I'll wait for a dealer that can do that, because that doesn't seem like a fee that I'm willing to pay. So, let me know if you change your mind, but otherwise I'll keep an eye out for other vehicles that match my needs. Great. Leave it there. I'm fully willing to walk away. If you are willing to walk away from that deal, that's the power of wanting and not needing. a vehicle. Because what happens then is the ball is in their court. They have lost the power because they have essentially lost the sale. You've drawn this line in the sand of like, I understand that this fee is optional. If you're being reasonable, if you're saying, okay, I want this $50,000 car for $30,000, you're not being reasonable. They're not going to do business. They would rather spend that time to find somebody willing to pay $15,000, $18,000, $19,000 more than to haggle with you over $20,000. It's just never going to happen. What happens? A couple days later, I get a call. Different salesman. First guy. Congrats to him. He'd gotten a promotion. And all of a sudden now he's a manager. And all of a sudden now he can waive the fee. So the second salesman tells me that the first salesman, now manager, can waive the fee. And I say, great. Send me over the price sheet with that. You got a deal. And I put down the deposit. Now, I'm still waiting on this car because it's still in production, so I will fill you guys in future story times should anything happen with, anything of note or interesting. But I find those to be the biggest points. Go in from a position of strength if at all you possibly can. Whether you're in a position of strength or not, pre-shop. Think about the vehicles you want. Read reviews. Read real experiences. Don't just go off the car commercials you've seen during the football game and say, oh, that car looks cool, because that's their job to make it look cool. Make sure you've done your homework and said, okay, this is what real people are experiencing. This is what real people like and don't like about the vehicle. Is this something I'm willing to overlook or not? Figure out what your non-negotiables are, and then go in and have a good price range in mind. Kelley Blue Book will usually give you a price range. You can pick somewhere in the middle of it. You can go down to the bottom of it, but just make sure you're sort of in that green area of like whatever. And if you see one below that value, by all means, you got yourself a steal, especially in this economy. Get after it. Go after it. Be aggressive. And don't try to negotiate too much if they're already giving you a really great deal. But that can also just help you level set on what to expect as price and know if a particular dealer is trying to rip you off. And then third, is really in the negotiating table, being willing to walk away. As hard as it may be, especially if you're not in a position of wanting a vehicle, but you absolutely need a vehicle, you need something ASAP, because you and your partner both commute to work every day in opposite directions, uphill both ways in the snow, right? If that's the case, it may be hard to walk away, but at the same time, if that saves you thousands of dollars, it may be a worthwhile endeavor. So even if you have to fake it till you make it, sometimes walking away, being serious about being able to walk away and looking for the next good opportunity is always the right move. And I was able to do that with this car, and I was able to do that with the RAV4 because they were not budging on price. And I said, listen, I've got a hard cap on the money I'm willing to spend on this vehicle. We're $1,000 off. Where can you get me $1,000? And lo and behold, they couldn't do it. So I said, okay, well then I'll take this truck that I'm trading in, head back, and we'll find another vehicle, different place. One more thing, Columbo style. Well, before you go, let me talk to my manager real quick. There's always a manager who can make some things happen. They can't just make the decision. The manager's got to make the decision. I don't know if that's real or not. Car people, get in the comments and let me know if you actually have to run everything by the manager, if that's a tactic to make it seem like, oh, there's good cop, bad cop going on. Talk to the manager. We can give you $1,000 more for the trade-in. Great. We have a deal. But being able to walk away puts you in the driver's seat, pun kind of intended there, and allows you to do it. So that's all I've got for tonight on my experiences buying a car. Maybe that's some helpful advice for you guys. Maybe those are helpful experiences. If you have other tips or tricks or things that you have done in your car buying, we'd love to hear them in the comments, especially on YouTube. Like, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Post video episodes on YouTube and Spotify, audio episodes everywhere else. And of course, you can find all of our episodes on workingondadpod.com. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ethan, thanks for hanging out. You were awfully quiet tonight. Pizza looks delicious. I hope you're enjoying it. We'll see you guys later.